Well, hello everyone. It's Martha Novak. We're so glad to talk with you today. I'm so glad to talk with you today. I hope you're glad to talk to me. We have a phone call already. We're talking about the art of surrendering today. Spiritual surrender is what I want to address. I would like very much to go to this phone call after a prayer, but we're awfully glad you're with us today. And if you have any questions or comments, our guest call-in number is 347. Where down, it just came up. Where I am right now has very slow speed. And so what happens is we sometimes can't sustain our broadcast on both channels. But so you don't miss anything, please do be ready to go to Facebook Live or Blog Talk Radio, whatever goes down. Generally, it's Facebook Live. Okay. Thank you so much for tolerating that. It's just the best we can do. Let's do a quick prayer, and then I'm going to go to my 646 caller who's been holding quite a long time. Okay. Dear God, thank you so much for all of this that we're about to do. We celebrate it all. We thank you for the opportunity to know more about us, about you, and about the you that we are, the you that is all things. We open ourselves now to see, hear, sense, and know what you would have us do. Please open our beings to the truth that lies in our enlightenment. Get us all on the same page, dear God, there. Let us speak with love and joy and realize the choices and the opportunities at hand. We open ourselves now to hear what you have to tell us directly. We open that part of us that can hear what you are saying to us, for you are all we are. And we have been in the way a lot, and we're hoping to get ourselves out for these 90 minutes so we can hear. We thank you so much, dear God, for all of this and for the you that comes through us all. We ask now that we surrender knowing anything, for it is the you through us and through all things that do have the answers to all of life's questions. We thank you so much, dear God, and say this prayer in your name, in the name of the Ascended Masters and our love-centered guides and friends, and in the name of everyone listening to the show today. We thank you, and so it is. So I'm going to go to the 646 exchange. Love it when I get calls, really I do. Let's see if I can bring you in, dear heart, because sometimes I can and sometimes I can't. Hello, I'm talking to a 646 exchange. Are you there?
Yes, I am here. How are you today?
Well, I'm fine. What's your first name?
My first name is Stacy.
Stacy. Well, hello, Stacy. I'm Martha Novak. I'm so glad to talk with you.
Thank you. It was great. It's nice speaking with you, too.
Darling, where is 646? What part of the country are you in?
I am in New York City.
New York City. I used to live there. I am far from that now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I still like to come up and see all your good shows up there from time to time. So, darling, what would you like to talk about today?
So I'm trying to get into business. I would love to start my own shelter, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also moving to California.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just trying to decide where would be a good place to start the shelter. Should I do it in the city, or should I just wait until I move to California?
You need to wait. Your trip to California is pretty imminent, isn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think you need to wait. Have you opened a shelter before? And I assume this is for the homeless, or is it for something else? What's your shelter?
You know what? It's for possibly domestic violence women.
Uh-huh.
I was homeless myself one time, so
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to do a shelter. So yeah, possibly for either homeless women, domestic violence women, or either it is for women and children. I haven't decided though. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I were you, I think that, first of all, to open a shelter like this, you're going to need backers. And your backers really need to come not only nationally, but locally. I think more people are interested in this locally, and each community wants to sponsor its own group, which I think is a really good idea, by the way. So I think you need to go and get established there. If I were you, I would go and I would see what's already there and start working with them and see how they're doing it, and seeing how you would do things a little differently or the same, and where, it feels to me like, Stacy, that if you are going to do this, that you might fill a specific niche that you see is not being served. That's what it feels like to me. But you don't know what is being served and what's not being served until you get out there and work in that for really, honestly, several years. So I would not plunge in, as good as your heart is, and it is good, but there is something specific. There's some element of society, something that you are going to say, oh, these people are not being served well. How can I serve them a little better? And that's going to be your bailiwick and what you can do. And I think it's very admirable. Good for you.
Thank you. Okay, so California it is. All right.
Yeah, I think California is a good idea. What part of California are you thinking about?
I'm not even sure. Did I have relatives that live out there? But the last time I was in California was when I was a kid. I was about 1 year old. Haven't been back since.
Why are you moving there?
Well, I've been living in the city for about 10 years now, and I just want something differently. I wanted to go into the entertainment business, too, at the same time, but definitely I don't want to stay in the city.
Okay, well, certainly,
in New York.
Yeah, certainly, I can understand why you would want to move there. There's a lot to learn. The East Coast is very different. Showbiz is certainly something that I've done for a while. The East Coast is very different from the West Coast. Your theater and film scene in New York is really different from the way it is in California. And, I would certainly also not discount smaller towns than New York and possibly LA. The small towns, for what you want to do, are as full of need as some of the very large inner cities. It's interesting because I think in some of the large inner cities, those needs are being met. But in these smaller towns, not so much. I was real pleased when I moved to my small town. I was real pleased when I moved to my small town that there was such a thing set up. Now, I'm in rather a resort community, and I was very pleased to see that a lot of the churches, they all rally together in this small town, and they don't do their own separate thing, but they have a food bank here that they all contribute to, and they have a kind of a, what do you call it? So it's kind of like Goodwill, only not under the auspices of Goodwill, where everybody brings their stuff and they sell it, and this the money and the food go to the homeless. It's almost easier to start something like that in a smaller community, especially if the community has a little more wealth. So I'm going to say you may want to do that. That doesn't mean don't go to California. That certainly means that I wouldn't just look in the big cities where things like this are already established. You might want to, that may be what I'm picking up.
I see.
You want to look in some communities outside the big communities too, to see what you're happiest in.
All right, I will do so.
All right. Well, I hope you're going to be enormously happy. That's a big life change and very exciting.
Okay, thank you so much. It sounds great.
Thank you, dear.
I really appreciate your help.
Thank you for calling in. All right. Bye-bye. We have a 917. exchange that I'm going to next. And let's see if we can bring this person on. Hello. Hello, my name is Martha. Are you there?
Hi.
Hello?
Yes, happy Sunday. How are you?
Fine. How are you? Happy Sunday to you.
Yes, thank you for having your show today.
Yes. What is your name, dear?
Yes, I want.
Can you tell me your first?
My name is Tina.
Tina? All right,
Yes.
Tina. And where are you at 917?
That's a New York number, but I live in New Jersey.
In New Jersey, all right. You know, I always like to ask this, Tina, because as we're talking, like I did with Stacy, I'd like to know a first name. I like to know what part of the country I'm picking you up in, and that makes it a little clearer, you know, to me. So thank you so much for that. So, Tina from New Jersey, tell me about you, Tina.
Yes, I would like to ask about a relationship with a gentleman named Trey.
Mm-hmm. And that's spelled that T-R-E-Y. Is that the name?
He spells it T-R-A-E.
T-R-A-E. That's the reason I always ask, because names have energy to them, and I need to always get the right thing, you know. Don't want to pick up the wrong Trey. Okay, yeah. T-R-A-E. Well, I certainly see why you're attracted to him. He's darling, and he's all over the place. He really is all over the place. I think that he is, he's just, right now, and this doesn't mean he won't settle down, but he's a very good time boy. He likes to have a good time, you know? So,
yes.
I don't know, I just don't see him settling down like you would like him to. Now, if you can wait and be patient, he may, but he has, I mean, he's a very sweet, dear person, and he certainly likes you very much, Tina, but he's just immature, you know, still. That's all that's going on here. You there?
Okay, you said he has to mature. Yeah, you said he has to mature.
He has to mature. Yeah. He likes good times. You know, that's the first thing that came to me. He's a good time person. Someone that I feel like has that energy is not going to want to settle down with the white picket fence and have a steady job all the time and raise kids. I mean, I don't think his energy is compatible with that right now.
Okay.
So we either need to wait to see if he will mature, or, you know, you need to date some other people too. But I don't think that what you want, and I think you're getting very well, I don't think you're quite ready to settle down either, quite frankly. So I just think there is some time that needs to pass and some maturity that needs to happen. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand. But do you see why we came together?
Well, he's very charming. He's darling, and so are you. So, you know, I think that's fabulous. But if you don't have the depth, if you all are not talking about what makes deep relationships last through the years, if you're not talking about whether you both want children, if you're not talking about how you feel on the deepest levels about things, those are the things that sustain you through the years, not the good times.
But that's what we, but we started out, that's what we talked about. He already told me that he would like for me to go with him on his life's journey. So he actually came off very strong. Yeah,
I understand that, darling, but that's a nice but that's a nice generality. You all aren't talking about the specifics. And you also haven't seen those demonstrated. You understand? And what I'm just saying is, let's wait and see if he demonstrates these things and if he moves out of generalities. And let's see if you do. Because right now, it's kind of general. I mean, it's all nice and airy-fairy and lovely. And I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm saying that right now, The thing that I look for people to have sustaining relationships is not at the center. Okay?
Well,
That's all I'm saying.
You know, like he wants.
What?
I know, but I'm just saying that since he likes to have a good time and he's, you know, probably has his way with the ladies, why would he, you know, ask me to go on a journey with him?
Well, darling, it doesn't mean that he doesn't like you. He does like you. That is very sincere. He does like you. He can be very sincere and still have this kind of quixotic, chaotic, I don't know what to say here. It's just kind of, there's just not a settled quality yet in him. That's all. That's it. You know, that doesn't mean he's not sincere about you and that he wouldn't like it to be a certain way. But is he going to demonstrate that he is there and solid and will do that? That energy is not in place yet. Not yet. That's all.
Well, has he been hurt? Like, well, is it from the past relationships that he's afraid to settle down? You're saying?
No. No, he doesn't let himself open that much. Mm-mm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-mm. No, he guards himself pretty well. So when we're talking about, does he like you a lot? Would he like this to be the way he envisions it in his mind? I think that's true. But there is a lot to do. There's a lot that he must demonstrate that I don't see him demonstrating. He does have that kind of, you know, whimsical, he's just not that deep right now, you know. Sorry, he's just not. He's charming. I can see why you all came together. He's lots of fun. He's marvelous. He's saying all the right things. Let's see if he does the right things through the years.
Okay, yeah, because I'm like into ministry and I don't want to be intimate right now. Would that be okay? Would he be patient with that?
I don't know. He's not your guy if he isn't patient with that, sweetheart. As much as you want this to work, come out of your fantasy. And if he's not patient with that, he's not the guy for you, sweetie. He's not. Let's be realistic, because you don't want to waste your time, and you don't want to waste your time pining for somebody who isn't in the same place as you when you could be creating a lovely relationship and have what you want. Okay? So don't be in a hurry, Tina. Please don't. You know, I think it's very important for you to observe people over a period of time, because everybody looks good in the beginning, don't they? But you need to know, because everybody has flaws, including us. Everybody has them. You need to see the flaws you're buying if you have a permanent relationship with this guy. You need to observe that over time. Does he mean what he says? Is he putting into practice? Is he responsible? This guy doesn't seem very responsible and accountable right now. And that won't make a real good husband. You see? No matter what he says. So let's watch. Let's watch and wait. And certainly if he goes away because you're not ready to have a sexual relationship, he's not your guy. He's not your guy.
Well, do you see other women around him right now?
Yeah. I do. Because he's attractive.
Okay.
He's very attractive. There's always somebody else with this guy. I mean, he's, you know, I like him. Don't think I don't like him. But he's an attractive man, and there are always going to be other women. He counts on that, you know. That's why he doesn't have to get too involved.
Oh, he counts on it being other women, so he doesn't have to get too close?
But, darling, yeah. I mean, he's attractive. Now, I'm not saying that he's not somebody that might ultimately settle down, but he's not that way right now, and that's what I'm tuning into.
Okay.
He just liked to be that way, but he's not that way in seriousness. And you know, I was going to mention in this lesson today that we can't impose on ourselves what we like to be. Otherwise, it's forced. We have to go on the journey. We have to say, you know, I'm just not there right now. Maybe I would like to be, but I'm not there right now. And I'm not sure he can tell you that. We'll see. I'll think more of him if he does, instead of these nice generalities of, oh, I'd love for you to go on the journey with me. You know, that's not very specific.
Well, so that was just to draw me in just a little bit.
Well, I can understand, my darling, that you would like to have a relationship with someone. And I think the natural thing in life is for us to, as we develop ourselves in love, as loving people, we want to give it to somebody. But you've got to be very discerning about who you're going to choose, because your life is going to go in that direction. So there's a lot to think about here. And when I say you all are not talking on the deepest levels of your being, you're not talking from the sustaining place to have a lasting and good relationship with this person. You all just aren't doing that. Can you do that? I don't know. Every human being can if they want to. It just, you know, you got a lot to learn, both of you. Okay?
Okay.
All right, sweetheart.
Yes, thank you.
Let me know how you're doing, all right? Because
Thank you.
I do tell the truth as I see it, but I want you to be all right in this. I mean, I can understand why he's so blooming attractive. I can. Great. But there are other things that make a relationship last for 70 years. Okay?
Okay, and you say he hasn't been hurt.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if it's not hurt the way you mean it. He's learned in his childhood not to give too much of himself and commit, you know, and he keeps himself safe. So that's what I'm saying. But it wasn't anything in his adulthood that has happened, because he keeps himself pretty, no matter what he would say, because he's going to appear like he, you know, has normal relationships with people, and he may present that he's been hurt, but I don't think he's been that hurt. I think he's always able to move on.
He's not that close to his family, so that's why I was thinking that.
Well, that he's been hurt, but it was way back, you know, not any present relationships. It was when he was a little boy. It was when the little boy formed to this. And it's still alive and well in him.
I understand that.
Thank you. All right. Good luck, Tina.
Thank you.
All right. You take good, sweet care of yourself. Thank you for listening today to the show, okay?
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go on with our lesson, but I do want to, let me give you our call-in number, which is 347-850-1647. You're always welcome to call me. You know, I'm always simply going to tell the truth as I see it. A lot of times my classes always say, don't ask Martha unless you want to know, you know, the bottom line. So I just want you all to have good lives, and I would like very much for all of you all to be ultimately happy. But I don't look for the momentary fix. I look for the happy life. And if Tina or someone else doesn't have a good relationship with somebody who can work through problems and that if someone is too egoic to say, I've done this and I'm sorry, or what can I do to help you, or dive in there as much as she does. If you all don't have a relationship of energy exchange, it's not much of a relationship. So I want you all to choose well, you know? All right. Today we're talking about the art of spiritual surrender, and this doesn't sound like it has a whole lot to do with what we just talked about, and it has everything to do with what we just talked about, and I'll show you as we go. Excuse me, I have a little puppy here. This is Tuffle, and he wants to sit with his mother, so there we are. It's a strange title, I know, when I was entitling this, The Art of Spiritual Surrender, but there is an art. You know, I can only suspect, and spiritual surrender is a real thing. We have a lot of little surrenders in our lives. We'll talk about those in just a minute. But spiritual surrender, the big thing where you come back changed, and you come back changed, by the way, forever, is actually a thing that's available to all of us. But there is a path to it. And the path to it, in the path contains the art, and we'll talk about why I use that word. I can only suspect that Jesus himself went through this, because he disappears from written literature for 18 years. He emerged into the public certainly quite different than when we last saw him. All our spiritual teachers, like Buddha, have changed. All of us change. There are leaders in this world all over, in every walk of life, that have made this journey and have gone through this process. And I want to put on the table that consciousness and enlightenment, it is a process. It takes place through a triad: awareness, consciousness, enlightenment. We're going to talk about all that in more detail. I do want to put on the table that I've written a book called The Life You Want. It's available on our website, marthanovak.com. It's a very good book. It might be sometimes hard to read at first. It's interesting because my advanced class, they're such wonderful people. They've been with me anywhere from 14 to 18 years. And these dear people all said, oh, it used to be so hard to read. Now it's so easy to read, and it's very comforting to read because this is the journey. But they didn't think so in the beginning. There is a second book, by the way, called The Teacup Prophecies. That's very easy to read because it's quotes from this radio show, from my magazine articles that I've written, from books, from all sorts of, from sessions, all sorts of things. They're quotes that make you think. And there are really easy ways to pick that little book up and to meditate on something for the day. Not only that, but it is an app for your iPhone. So go to our website and you can see how to get those things. The app is just 99 cents. So the book is quite a bit more expensive. And it's coming out for Droid, I think, very soon. So let's talk about the process of consciousness and opening that. You know, I remember when I was an actor, I've acted a great deal of my life in film and theater, and I remember when I started out in acting, young girl, and I do something with my whole heart, right? And when I would get my critique, the teacher would say, it just wasn't real. It wasn't real. And I didn't know how to make it more real because I was as real as I could be at that time, right? And what I didn't realize was there was more to learn. Now, in my process, I went totally into that. I've always been curious, and I see exactly what I did. As a matter of fact, that's a whole nother show. There was a lot to learn about energy and what made things real and what made things false. And I certainly was presenting a false self. at the time. So this process of opening, of awareness, consciousness, and enlightenment is a very natural process. One that we probably should go through willingly. However, we resist. This is human nature. Sometimes we resist until it's too late and we get very ill and we're about to pass off this earth. We can lead unhappy lives because of this. We never can quite fulfill ourselves, even if we say we're happy. Isn't that interesting? Because happiness and fulfillment are different things. Thank you so much. You all are so sweet to send me messages. It means a lot to me. But we've got to realize there's so much more. That's the reason you're listening to a show like this, you know? How do we get more? So I want to talk about that today. Each life does consist of a number of small surrenders. We can think of these because they really fall into the category, rather than surrenders, they fall into the category maybe of awakenings. Maybe that's a more precise word. You see something at these times, you see something with a clarity you've never seen before, and you then give up something to get something much more because you see that you can do that now. You can let this tidbit go in your childhood because there's something more. Concerning the last phone call that we just made with Tina, I actually am thinking of a young man that came to me probably 5 years ago, and he was young, and he had not yet had sex, and I work with his mother, so that's the reason I saw him. I usually don't work with clients like this, but he was very dear. And he asked me at that time, he said, why do people want long-term relationships? Because all he wanted to do was get laid, right? And I looked at him and I said, you haven't been slammed down, you haven't lost a job, you haven't had insults thrown at you, you haven't had people that were supposed to be your friend betray you, you haven't had them turn away, you haven't lost a lot of friends, you haven't been disappointed in life, you haven't seen that you're not that good in terms of your talent yet, and you need to be developed. You haven't seen all this, but you will. And when you do, you stop the arrogance. You start going back to this lovely, essential person that you are, if you let those things teach you. You find out down in those essentialities that you are very loving and that you want to be sincere in your love. And to do that, you choose someone to give that to, and there's a loop because that person is going through the same thing, and you give and receive love on that level. Love is privilege, but we have to realize it is and drop all of our egoic arrogance and our thinking we know what's right and what's best and our control. Yeah, there's a lot to learn here. So when we wake up, when we start having these small awakenings, by the way, and these small awakenings, because of our life path, lead to the big spiritual surrenders ultimately. Here you might see that a relationship is one-sided and that the energy doesn't go back and forth like we just talked about. And you might choose to leave that relationship, to find out who you really are, and to develop a solid sense of self within you, and then create a new and better relationship that understands that and can give and take in a more profound way. I do want to put on the table that all lives do get better and better. Whether we know this and whether we'll admit this to ourselves is another question, because we're very resistant. You see, we want to hold on to what small sense of self we have needs to be developed so it's solid, right? And we want our cake and eat it too, and we want consciousness to come in. It doesn't work that way. We have to be authentic, real, stripped down to who we are, vulnerable and small. I read an article the other day about astronauts, and it said that astronauts all believe in God. And the question of why was on the table. And they all said because we felt small. So, wow, you feel small. You find what's really important. You want to go there. You want to cooperate with that. And then you find something much bigger than yourself. Yes, I am having all sorts of animals come today. I have a feeling that, yes, indeed, my little red cat, Schnitzel, here he is, loves to come and be part of all this. So let's put him down. All right. Well, that didn't work very well, did it? All right. The problem here is that even the act of denying that our lives get better and better is resistance, because they do. But why we do that is this. We want our lives to unfold the way we want them to unfold. In other words, we want what we want when we want it and how we want it. That's it. And when this desire to have it our way is egoically driven, I am going to tell you this isn't going to happen. You're not going to get anything the way you want it to be. How you want it to be, it's like saying, I want money, so I'm going to win the lottery, that's it. And you deny all the wonderful things, the 10 cents on the floor that's part of the money that you want. You say it's only 10 cents and you're not grateful for it. You see, this is an energy-based system, guys. And we have to be open to using the energy and being grateful for everything. Several months ago, I attended a conference. A woman I didn't know was there, but we started talking, and she was distraught because her daughter had just been put in jail. She was actually in prison for some sort of drug problem she was selling. I don't know what she was doing, but she was something she shouldn't have been doing. Obviously, this wasn't what she wanted for her daughter. She wanted her daughter to be a sterling example of womanhood and to have a responsible job and a wonderful family and to give her grandchildren and to be loving and to be a good person. What we all want for our kids, right? But this woman at the conference was waking up to was that this was her daughter's life with her daughter's choices, and she didn't have anything to do with this. She didn't have any choices in this matter but to go with. She, as the mother, was charged with loving her daughter now, supporting the what is of the daughter's life right now, holding a sacred place of love and stability for her daughter, positivity for her daughter. And the mother was, when we started the conversation, not positive at all. I mean, I can understand that. See, here's what we've got to realize, guys. A lot of spiritual people will say, oh, I shouldn't feel that. That's not spiritual to be negative about this. And I'm going to say your positivity, your true positivity in God is in the negative. Isn't that unusual? Well, why do you think this is an esoteric journey? Because everything that you want is in what you don't want that you must resolve and get through. You see? We can't be afraid. We've got to find out there is no fear by going through that, right? And that it was all a puff of air. So the mother was having a very hard time with all of this. Her daughter, who was until now, pampered and spoiled, was seeing another side of life for sure. And she, in her horror, and she was horrified, was starting to, by the way, turn within and was seeking to know more about God. She was asking for books on spirituality that she'd never read before. She was asking her mother to bring those. The mother was experiencing by the end of the conversation that she was not going to get her perfect little picture. She had painted it in her mind for years. And her disappointment and her distress and her inability to cooperate with the what is was because she didn't want to let go of this perfect little picture that she wasn't going to get anyway. You see, we all have to accept what is and go with God. Find the privilege of acceptance, learn, grow, and love from that. Concerning this woman and her daughter had chosen this path. And who's to say it was the wrong one? She might do something absolutely marvelous with her life. I had a different path, by the way. You probably did too. This might be her chance to start a wonderful process and contribute out of what she now learns and knows. We all have that choice. Or we don't take it. This is an awakening for her. Can you see that? Well, you've had many of these yourself, maybe not as dramatic as this. But nevertheless, your awakenings have seemed pretty earth-shaking to you, as mine have seemed to me. We can resist learning anything, insist we're right and that everybody else is wrong, secretly fear we are wrong, and do our best to cover it all up and wear a false mask, wear a lovely cloak of narcissism as long as we can until we're about to break. And the time eventually does come when falseness just can't win. You know, my job is to put all this on the table for you and hope no matter what your age, you'll start moving on this. Because if you emotionally wear something you're not, you separate yourself from who you are, and this will never make you happy. It just won't make you happy. I want to put on the table to you that when the hour of our death comes, one of the reasons people linger is because we want the ego to save us. We've relied on our ego our whole life to save us. But it has all been an illusion because the ego has never saved you. It's kept you alive by making false assumptions when you were a little kid, and good. That's wonderful. All those issues helped you survive. I think that's great, but there's a time, if we're honoring our growth, that we've got to drop those and be real. Drop those more and more and more and more, and go down to our authenticity where we just are. And we just are in God. So, let's say you make the decision to explore. Explore your very being. And you go to someone who can help. And you may go to a series of people who can help. I certainly did. When I would go to, I think I started out with my minister and then went to some therapists and went to some healers and went. And as soon as one stopped working for me, I would go to somebody else that did work for me, because I had this feeling I had to do this. I had to. You will need some sort of coach. You will Because as much as you say, you know, we can say, oh no, I'm dedicated to this now. Well, let me say to you that if I start stepping on your little sore toes, if I really go for what's bothering you and why you wear the falseness, you are not going to like that very much. You want to find somebody loving, but who will tell you the truth and who will confront you and who has the tools to work through this to get you on the other side of it. This is where a lot of people say, oh, they're too rough. No, you need to hear what's wrong and what's right and keep going. You see, the egoic child's mind, who wants to hold on to everything and has a million tricks, wants to keep you safe. It's charged to keep you safe. The whole reason the ego child's mind develops is because the ego develops. It's charged with keeping you alive, safe, and making sense of your world in some way so you can survive. But is it telling you the truth? The answer is no. No. And we have to put those things in context. To go on this journey, and there's the word journey that Tina brought up, it's probably going to take years because you have to go through one truth after another truth after another truth, and they deepen and they deepen and they deepen and they deepen. There are changes to be made, and this frightens most people. We have to keep going and grow into knowing that all change is good, even if it hurts. It's the child's mind that thinks change is bad because it hurts. That's just not true. There are gifts in everything, but it takes the aware mind to see them, you see? The whole point of everything is to keep going. That's the first part of the art of spiritual surrender. Keep going. Second part is cooperate as much as you can and catch yourself in non-cooperation. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. You're just not going to seize on the art, the graciousness, if you will, of surrender any more than I did. We're going to struggle because we don't want to lose certain things in our egoic child's mind that we're putting together. And remember, there's a great deal of propaganda coming from the ego child's mind that says, I'm the only one, the only reason you're alive. Well, that's not true. The earlier you realize it, the better. And that you don't have to hold on to those things to stay alive. You've survived. Now let's go on and investigate how loving we are. That's consciousness, by the way. We want to cooperate. And when we cooperate, growth is a lot easier on us. But we have to grow into our cooperation. And it's there if you go far enough into your exploration. I guarantee you it's there. At one point, and I look for that point when I'm working with people, I'm going to push, I'm going to push, I'm going to push, I'm going to push until I see you across that line where you can't stop, where you are so fascinated with yourself, where you're beginning to see how glorious things can be just on the other side, just out of your comfort zone, it's a little bit, that you won't stop. That's when I back off. That's when we change our tactic and we work differently. It's wonderful. We want to confront the adult who's never fully matured emotionally, who likes someone to take care of them. We want to confront the person who doesn't want to take responsibility for themselves, the adult who the child in the adult body who lives their lives vicariously through other people. we want to confront the person who isolates and withdraws, who does not contribute, who does not commit. We want to confront someone who does nothing but think about themselves, who reaches for externals to fix an internal problem. Why wouldn't those things need to be confronted? Of course they should be. And everything is movable. You see? When we say, I don't think I'll ever change, all that means to a good healer, a good coach, is that you're not ready to do it. And it sends us in a direction to help you get ready. I also am very wary of, I'm ready. Whenever I hear that, that always means, no, you're not. Because the people that are truly ready are doing it. They're not declaring that they're ready. You see? By the way, this is all of us. Everything I've just mentioned, this is all of us. But are you going to let that stop you? I hope you're going to say no. Because all of these things that I've just mentioned and many, many more are just presentments of the ego child's mind, the part of us that still thinks like a child. And there's a lot of living to do. And things to, and people to serve and to be served by beyond the state of mind. So let's say you do want to explore. Let's say you absolutely have to explore. That certainly happened to me. I had no idea where I was going. I just knew I had to go there. I had no idea. I wanted to go as far as I could. I still want to go as far as I can. Remember the movie The Field of Dreams? Field of Dreams, I think is what it was called without the. James Earl Jones character said, I don't know what's in that cornfield, pardon the paraphrase, but I have to find out. I'm going to find out. That's the way I felt. Where was this exploration going to lead? I had no idea it would lead here, and I have no idea where it's going to lead in the future. I just know I have to do it. I hope that'll be you too. Now, all of us start exploring for the wrong reasons, which, by the way, turn out to be the right reasons when we start, because we start exploring. Isn't that irony? It's one of those esoteric convolutions along the way. We start out for the wrong reasons and find out they're the right reasons because it started us. You see? Isn't that something? I'm very creative. I'm an author, a writer, an actor. I've directed theater in my time in film. I'm a teacher. And I was always aware when I started out that my work was tight. That was the word I used, tight, okay? That was the only word I could think of to describe what I wanted to work on. What I didn't say to myself, because I wasn't mature enough to realize it back then, was that I was afraid and anxious, and I was playing it safe because I was afraid and anxious. Dears, creatives can't play it safe. It isn't our nature. And just so you'll know, there are no enlightened traditionalists. You're going to have to go on your journey. You're going to have to discover what you need to discover, and you're going to have to use your open mind your way. But it won't be traditional. Okay? You got to move beyond that. So you start, maybe because your work is tight, like mine, maybe because you're unhappy, maybe because you've gotten an inner call to do so, maybe you want to be in a deeper relationship with God. Whatever the reason you start, just give yourself permission to start. Now, here's another point, and I think it's an important one. Since at this point in your experience, you don't know what's wrong with you yet, not that there's anything wrong with you, but this is your ego child's mind way of talking. Awareness has to be put in place. There are many things to be aware of that you're not aware of. Things are not at all what they seem. You aren't the failure you think you are, or the disappointment, or the redundant child. All these are conclusions you formed based on the appearance of things that you observed in your childhood. In the child's mind, your adult mind, where you can start entertaining higher thought, doesn't even form until you're in your 20s. So this is the best you can do when you're a little kid. And this is where your issues are. You're trying to survive. Great. But if you are still trying to survive when you're 40, we need to rethink things. Because the time for that was long since past. It was over when you were 8, or actually when you were 12. But you have to wait for the adult mind to form before you can address these things. All right. Now, you're going to have to see other things beyond the ego child's mind and what it shows you. Things now that happened in your childhood that are in context with everything else. Things in the context of energy, of inherited beliefs, of your drive to survive. And you begin in this process to have just a little mercy on yourself. You're going to spend years developing your awareness. There are deeper and deeper levels of awareness. Many things in your life have been normalized, but they're not in the range of normal at all. And you've got to find that out. Opening consciousness is like peeling an onion. You often hear that image, layers and layers and layers to go through. By the way, you can stop anywhere along the way, but I urge you not to. You are not yet playing in the fields of your potential. When you get there, you won't stop. You'll want more and more and more, and you'll see the privilege that the whole journey has been. Until you see this, you keep going. Please. No matter how tired and disgusted you get. Did someone say resistance? This is all resistance. There is a trap that a lot of people fall into. I want to put it on the table. You'll be fascinated with all the things that are wrong with you. This is an egoic child's mind trick, of course. There's part of you that wants to keep you in your place. There's nothing wrong with you. There are false beliefs to resolve. There's a bigger picture that you're not seeing, that you will see. There's an egoic child's mind to transcend, but the only way you transcend it is through investigating it. Otherwise, it's avoidance. It's denial. That's when you have to be arrogant. It's self-protection. You have to be right. Self-protection. All resistance. You don't want to put it aside and vilify it. It is you. Let it be. We're human, and this is part of what humans do. But that's not all you are, is it? And this is something I don't want you to ever forget. There's something beyond what you're doing. Let's go find it. Let's go open it. As you continue this journey, you're going to find yourself lightening up. It's going to seem like the world has lightened up, but it's because you have shifted your perspective. There will still be deeper insights, and you'll even start seeing some miracles along the way. New talents and abilities will emerge, particularly intuitive ones. You'll move into deeper insights, and then you're going to go, and all this doesn't happen by turning on a light switch. This is the path, the everyday path. Then one day, you're going to work on self-acceptance. Accepting all of you as this wonderful, glorious whole. You're going to say to yourself that really nothing has ever been wrong, that it's all been right, and you're going to really accept that you are part of this perfection and wonder of it all, a system far bigger than you, but one that you have participated in, because all people do or resist. You've been human, and now you love the whole of you. And by the way, you're going to love others. This is where compassion really opens. You see, you don't need to inflate your worth anymore, or, by the way, deflate your worth. You just are. And you're holding up your part of the light now. That's all you've got. That's all any of us have. We're just holding up our part of the light. And you're dedicated to doing it as well in this moment as you possibly can. The aware people and unaware, by the way, of us alike are all trying to live a good life in our way. You'll see what everybody's doing because you yourself have done it. And you'll have such compassion for everyone. And you'll want to participate and contribute to this system. You will know that there's been plenty of self-deception along the way. You've been really good at it, as I have been. And now you catch yourself trying to self-deceive, but you won't be fooled anymore. Here in this state of mind, you really listen to yourself. You'll honor yourself by listening and acting on the kindness and love you hear from within. You used to think you were being kind to yourself by imposing on yourself how you ought to be. But you realize that was just a egoic self-deception. You would say, when you couldn't sleep, I ought to sleep. You used to say, I ought to stop crying. I need to stop acting like a baby and man up. I ought to exercise. I ought to. I should. I ought to. Guys, we're exhausted with that kind of life. They're all impositions of the egoic child's mind designed to keep you in your place, designed to keep you unmoving, not thinking new thoughts, not feeling new feelings, not seeking new spiritual truths, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. By the way, this is where depression lives. Anxiety lives, because you're not getting on with things. Anxiety is often just a sign that says, I am anxious. Look deeper. Find out why. What's the next revelation you need to find? You see. You may think it is, because the ego child's mind propaganda is saying, yes, it is. Go on the journey and find out. Prove it to yourself that it's not. At this point in deeper consciousness, you've stopped telling your story. Gone are the stories. And here we are. We're back. Thank goodness. Okay. What I was about to say is that in this arena, at this point in your deeper consciousness, you've stopped telling your story. Gone are the stories of the child who had the mean parent or the bullying siblings, who was deprived of love and opportunities or anything else that was your story. What is left instead of a story is this moment, this precious moment, golden, new, and shining. It's filled with creative, mindful possibilities. And your choice to do with it what you want. That's where you are when you get here. So, I think there's every reason in the world to start this journey to spiritual surrender. I love the old adage that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. I hope today will be your day. There are many fine teachers around. We're just some of them. And I say we're because if you will look on my website, marthanovak.com, you're going, and it's Novak, you'll see a list of people that have been studying with me anywhere from 14 to 19 years. They're terrific, smart people. They won't let you get away with anything, but they'll love you. They'll love you through this whole thing because they've done it. All right? We care a lot about you. We want your life to be good. We want your life to be great. But you're going to have to decide to do this. So we hope you will. Let's do a prayer now and release what we can. And I hope the next step will be for you to get moving. You can always reach me through that website, marthanovak.com. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions about this, please do write me or call me next. I don't know whether I'm going to be doing a show next week. Something tells me I might not be. But certainly look on all of our sites, Facebook, Blog Talk Radio sites under my name, Martha Novak. And I'll be letting you know if I'm traveling or whether I'm here or what we're doing, okay? Let's do a prayer. Dear God, who is all there is, you who are all we are, all everything is in this world, thank you so much for the lessons today, for what is happening in us, for our emotions. We know they've been stirred up in some way, shape, or form, even if we don't realize it. We ask now that out of this chaos, we go to new order, that we are willing to move mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, that we seek, that we question, that we become. We open ourselves now to being vulnerable to you, to our highest selves, that we may transform some of this that has burdened us for a long time, that we start moving on an inevitable path for us later soon, and that we think of it not as a burden we once did, but as a privilege to take on, a joy in opening ourselves and being who we really are in you. We thank you so much, and now We clear, release, and cancel all of these old things that are not part of our highest selves. And we move into the grace and goodness of you. And we do what we need to do next in love. Thank you so much for all this, dear God. And we say this prayer now in your name, in the name of the Ascended Masters, our love-centered guides and friends, and in the name of each and every person listening to this show today. We thank you, and so it is. Ladies and gentlemen, you do us a tremendous favor if you'll get shows like this around. All of our shows are archived on Blog Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and the YouTube channel. That is, all of the shows that actually support the technology. Oh, Kat, thank you so much for writing in. It's so good to hear from you. Thank you too, sweetheart. So if you will, try to get these shows around. I think on Blog Talk Radio, you can actually send them to your social media page. I think that would be a great idea if you would. It helps us by you helping us expand our audience. We thank you so much for all of your contributions, liking us, befriending us, sharing us, following us, all of those things that now are available on social media. We appreciate it very much indeed. Let's see. Please go to our website. We have all sorts of information there. And if you want to know more about spiritual surrender, there is a third of the book, The Life You Want, my first book, that talks about this in quite a bit of detail, especially all the throwing of ourselves around that we do to get there. So, bless you. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon. If not next week, the week after, I'll let you know. Please look for the announcement on Blog Talk Radio, and certainly on meetups. I think I'm on a meetup